Hi, this is Terry Brock. Hey, you have got to find out about this new book that's out. It's really helpful and gives you an idea on where the world is going and how to think. There's a certain way of thinking that worked in the past, doesn't work as well anymore. My buddy Randy Gage wrote a book called Mad Genius. It's coming out real soon, and you want to look into this. This book, Mad Genius, gives you a way to how to think what successful people are doing now and where we're going for the next 10 years. Here's an interview that I did with him. Join me for this, and you are going to want to take notes. So get your pad and paper or your note-taking device of choice ready to go. Pause this for a moment and join me as I talk to Randy Gage about Mad Genius. Today's world is different than ever before. Now, we've been saying that for a long time, but you know that there are more opportunities now than ever before, and there's a book I want to tell you about. I'm Terry Brock, and I get a chance to talk to a lot of people around the world about what's going on, where we're going with technology, building relationships, and I'm very excited about a new book that is available, soon to be available, called Mad Genius, and it is written by a buddy of mine, Randy Gage, and I've got Randy on the line right now, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the book. We're going to go through it and talk about it. Randy, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Terry, great to be on with you.
It is great to be here with you, and I know you're joining us from your offices out there in San Diego, and a lot of the things you talk about in the book relate to what's happening not only in California, but elsewhere, and I want to get into that. And first, I've got to tell you, it really is a fabulous book. I have read it 3 times. I loved your earlier work. There was a New York Times bestseller, Risky is the New Safe, and as good as that one was, and it was in the stratosphere, this one is even better. So thank you for doing that. Tell us a little bit about Mad Genius and what the book is an overview about, and kind of an overview of what the book is and how it benefits people.
Well, it started off as a sequel to Risky is the New Safe. That was my thinking, that this was going to be the follow-up that would dive deeper into biogenetic engineering, cloning, the singularity, all of the medical advances and 3D printing and all these crazy things we were going to go into in the next decade or so. And then I realized that isn't what the world needs from me. There are brilliant technical people, there are brilliant medical people, there are brilliant physicists and scientists who can do that stuff way better than I can. What my strength is critical thinking and how those things apply to us and what are the opportunities that they create. If you remember the Risky book, we talked about how each one of these, and we looked at some of those things in Risky, obviously, kind of peered around the corner to look at what are the trends going to be, how do we get in front of them. And I wanted to go deeper of that, and it ended up turning into Mad Genius, which turned into this manifesto for entrepreneurs on how to think, how to unleash the creative genius, which I believe is in everybody, and how to unleash it in the entrepreneurial context, meaning how would we take this stuff? We're going to enter this cataclysmic decade, which will be more change and disruption and acceleration and growth than any decade in human history. How do we think to be prepared to face that? And that's really how the book came about.
Yeah, and that's really the most important, because as we think, then those actions start happening, but it starts with that. And matter of fact, let's take a look at the book itself here. What I want to do is I want to share my screen with you through this fancy schmancy technology thing. We can do that. You should see it on your screen as well as our viewers watching this. The Manifesto for Entrepreneurs, Mad Genius. And I want to jump over here to a page where you kind of talk about what it is. You said here, because there are billions of dollars, pounds, pesos, euros, and rubles all over the world, desperately looking for projects to invest in, causes to support, and solutions to buy, the only thing between you and the money you're seeking or the outcome you wish to create is the right idea. So this is a manifesto about ideas. Tell us a little bit about that and what kind of ideas are out there, and how people can take advantage of that.
Yeah, because if you talk to entrepreneurs, they'll say, well, the problem is getting enough money. But there is, like just what I said there, all these pounds, euros, rubles, pesos, whatever, people with money looking for places to invest it, saying, hey, I can't put this in a certificate of deposit for 2%. I can't put it in a savings account for 1%. I want to grow my wealth. Where can I invest it? They're desperately looking for ideas. And that is the greatest currency in the world. And by the way, I just figured out something. I just realized you have the galley proof of the book. So people at home aren't confused. The MAD is actually upside down on the finished version. So if they
Yeah, I
wonder,
like that. Yeah, I got the early release there, so I'm
yeah,
saying it. I
because
like
yeah,
the
you've
way
got
you put that upside down. That's good.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
so it just dawned on me as I was looking at that. Wait, that's the that's not the final cover.
Yeah, exactly. Let me go back here and show that again to the folks that are watching. Matter of fact, here, let me just go back here to this right here on the screen. There it is. So we've got the one that I have in the early version, and Randy, show them the one that, again, that'll be the way it looks like in the stores.
Yeah, this is what you'll see at the Barnes and Noble or on Amazon or whatever.
And I like that. And matter of fact, as I'm thinking about it, the reason the MAD is turned upside down, I've got some ideas. Tell me, in your opinion, why is it flipped upside down in the final version?
Well, there is this fascinating line between genius and craziness. And that is the line that I want to approach in this book. And I think we do approach in this book. As you know, it's got a very shocking introduction that a lot of people will find very unsettling.
Yes.
I probably had about 10 dear friends where I talk about my addiction with crystal meth and overcoming that, and probably had about 10 good friends who were like, now, are you sure you want to put this in this book? Are you sure you want to put that out there?
That's what I was thinking, Randy, when I saw it, because I know you had shared that before, and see that in the book, I'm thinking, whoa, that is something. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, and my whole thing is I'm not one of these business book writers who deal in theories or do summaries of other people's bestseller. I'm an actual angel investor. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in the space. I'm growing businesses every day. That's what I do. And I'm not one of these gurus who puts themselves out as some supernatural entity with healing powers like Benny Hinn or Hine or whatever his name is. And
yeah,
I just say, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's what's working for me. Try this. Or here's what isn't working for me. And so it's very important. All my books, my blogs, my periscopes, anything I do, it's real. It's me telling you exactly what I'm doing. And that was kind of the impetus for the book was this, and it was fascinating when you search Wikipedia for genius, how many pages there were and topics there were about the thin line between genius and insanity and craziness. And if the thing that I thought was so intriguing, like today, we're recording this, it's the holiday season in the US. I have seen an Amazon van in front of my condo 3 times today. And I've only left the house twice today, right? To go to the gym. But 3 times, once on the way there, once the way back, once another time, I saw this Amazon, different time. It wasn't the same van. 3 times them bringing deliveries. So you've got Amazon buying, they're just pricing now a fleet of 767s, right? Because very possibly that 5 years from now, the biggest logistics company in the world will not be UPS, will not be FedEx, but will be Amazon.com.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are, with their drones and their 767s and their vans and their Amazon Fresh and their deliver groceries within 1 hour, they're changing everything. And of course, the thing is, Amazon started as this bookseller, and Jeff Bezos was never in the bookstore business. Uber, if you look at Travis and the people who started Uber, they were not in the taxi business. The thing where I think the mad genius comes into play is you see the great disruptions in industries come from people who are outside of those industries because they don't think like the people in the industries do.
Exactly.
You and we've got a mutual friend, Dan Burris, a futurist.
Good man.
Yeah, good guy. Tells the story of him speaking to the Booksellers Association years ago and telling them, somebody's got to start an online bookstore. This is how books are going to be sold. He had thousands of people in the audience, all the bookstore owners. And of course, they all thought, oh, this crazy consultant, where does he get these cockamamie ideas? This is not how people buy books. People go into bookstores and buy books there. Same thing, Tony Zappos, the idea that you could sell shoes on the internet was such a crazy idea, because everybody would say, how could you buy shoes if you're not in the store and lace them up and try them on and walk? And he said, well, we'll just send them to them FedEx the next day. If they don't like them, we'll send them back and we'll pay the shipping, and we'll FedEx the next size up or the next size down. And we'll have such extraordinary customer service. That was disruption. But nobody in the shoe store business could think like that, because they fall into the habitual thinking. And everybody who's watching this, whatever their industry is, whatever their profession is, I guarantee you've probably bought into conventional thinking, which is based on a lot of premises that may or may not have been true at one time, but are probably not true today.
Yep.
And mad genius is the ability to blow that up and really unleash your creative genius. So it's for people who want to develop breakthrough marketing campaigns, that want to create an innovative product, people who want to disrupt an entire industry. To do that, we have to think different.
You're absolutely right. And matter of fact, we've seen that many, many times. I remember a couple of years ago, you'll appreciate this. I'm a syndicated columnist with business journals, and write for them. I wrote about the challenges that Blockbuster ran into. Remember the video outfit? And there's a place right across the street from us here. You've been to our place here, and it was Blockbuster. And now it's something else. They completely went out of business. And I said it was Netflix that did it. And I got a letter, an email from someone up in Canada who said, hey, we need some way to get people to come and rent videos from us. And I go, no, you're missing the point. People don't want to go to a store and rent videos. And trying to come up with some tricky marketing idea is not it. What you've got to do is take your skills that you already have. You're connecting with people, you're meeting their needs, and do it in some other way using other tools that are available, like Netflix did, saying, hey, we just want better bandwidth. And I think that's the key. And matter of fact, one of the things I love about your book, you shared something. I'm going to share this screen again here, where you talked about ways that people can actually move ahead and do this. I'm going to jump over here to page 78 and look at it right here. Yeah, you talked about third-party apps. Matter of fact, on these pages in here, in this section, you were talking about apps and the ability of apps, how strong they were. I thought this was really good, Randy. It's not just an inspirational, motivational book, but you give some specifics of how people are using it now and growth potential. I want to get your comment on this, what you said here about the reason third-party apps are taking off and will continue to accelerate is because they are built with a different mindset, key term, different mindset and perspective. Most businesses build their apps with the mindset of how to squeeze the most profit from their customers. When third-party developers build apps, they do it with the mindset of how customers actually want to use the product or service and how they would like to buy and why. Talk to us a little bit about that and the mindset that is necessary to succeed with apps and other tools.
Yeah, the perfect example is the letter you received from this person. It says, hey, we've got this video store. How do we get more people to come in and rent videos? Because if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Abraham Maslow, that's right.
Thinking, right? So they have that video store. So their frame of mind is, hey, I've got this rent, I've got this overhead, I've got this employees, cash registers, counter space, shelves, physical stock. How do I get people to come in and buy it?
How do we get people to ride these horses more rather than getting the new horseless carriages?
Right, because if you ask the wrong question, the answer is irrelevant. And people are always asking the wrong question because they're based on the premise of where they are. So it's the same thing with apps. Well, of course, Delta Airlines and Lufthansa and British Airways, they're going to make apps for their frequent flyer member programs. And if you're a member of those programs like you are and I am, we're going to use those apps. But the really great apps, the ones we love, are the ones from the third-party people. Because that's the app who will tell you, when the plane is actually going to leave. Is the equipment really there? What's their safety rating of the pilots and the crew? What's the real truth when the menu and the food? And where's the souvenir in the airport that you need to get for your little girl on your way home? Which airport has a spa with a massage, and what gate is it near? And all of the stuff that Delta or United or whoever, they're not going to think about that, because they're just saying, how do we sell more tickets to our customers?
Yeah, and they're
Whereas,
missing the point.
yeah, a
It's
third
the whole
party app
experience.
person would say, how do I make my travel experience more joyful or
Yes.
easier or cheaper or faster? And that's, again, the difference in a mindset that a third party would bring to the table, that when we just have that hammer, we don't see, because we're just looking for nails.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be one of the real keys. And you talk about that and many other real valuable tips throughout the book. I took a lot of notes as I was going through this. And if we had like 6 hours here for the video, we could go over a lot of it. But I want to cover a couple of things. And I like the way you did the book. You took the book and broke it into 3 different books. And in book 3, you talked about something I think is extraordinarily important. That was probably my favorite. Let me go over here and jump into this, go back into share screen mode. And you talked about an age that we're in, and you say we're in the age of the entrepreneur. And I have to agree. I think we're seeing that happening a lot. And I think that you show a lot in there. The quotes all the way through it. By the way, for those of you watching this, the pull quotes that we have in there, notice how I have it in my version. It says start pull quote and end pull quote. That's the way it's done. So I got the raw version here. The smarter you are, the greater the likelihood you are intellectually lazy. Don't be. Tell us a little bit about that and what you mean by that, Randy.
Once you get really smart, you start to figure, how can I do the shortcut? How can I be smarter than everyone else? How can I do this and find a cheat sheet way to get there? Where's the hack? Where's the shortcut? Where's the quicker way? And the danger is you start to think you're too smart, and you, instead of finding a hack, you're going for a shortcut. And that's what I mean by being intellectually lazy. You're not doing the real critical thinking required to say, okay, how do I make this process faster, cheaper, easier? Bringing more value to the customer, to the client, to the end user. Instead, you get intellectually lazy to say, well, how can I do this quicker and save me money or save me time or whatever? And that might not be the highest good for the people who would actually buy that product or service, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And matter of fact, I appreciate you saying that. It's something that we don't always hear about in a lot of books, but you coming out and saying it can catch us and go, okay, hold it. We got to keep thinking and keep going through this. Matter of fact, I particularly like that chapter. Let me go back here and share the screen again and take a look at some other quotes that you had. As you can see, I went through and got a lot of information here. I liked what you said here about it has nothing to do with the challenge. You replied in a voice of lyrical speaking. And
because that was Placido Domingo,
yes,
who I was having dinner with. Yes, that's who that quote is from, Placido.
Placido Domingo. And very good. He said, I have the passion for the music, and if I lived 3 lifetimes, I could never perform all the music I love. When you have the same joyfulness to bring your product to market, launch your new venture, or create the next breakthrough concept, you'll power your own creativity. You talked about what he did here and when you met Placido Domingo and why that passion is important. Tell us why we need to have that and how we rekindle and keep that passion going.
Yeah, why I say you have to have work that matters is you got to be excited to rip the sheets off the bed on Monday morning and go to work. If you have the mindset of so many, 4 or 5 billion people around the world who have this mindset of, oh, it's Monday, I got to go to the office, or oh, it's Monday, I got to go to the job, you're not going to do anything amazing. I promise you, you're not tapping into the creative genius that you have inside of you. But when you're doing work that matters, it matters to you, it matters to the people that are important to you, or it matters to people that you know it will make a difference in their life, that's when you can tap into that creative genius, because now you get all the endorphins kicking, you get the adrenaline kicking in, the mojo, everything, whatever term you want to use. you get excited about it. And that's when we're excited about stuff like that, that's when we really do unleash our creative genius.
Yeah, and it would seem like we have to have that keep going on a continual basis. Sometimes we can get all pumped up and feel really good, but then there's other times we wake up and go, oh, I don't feel like ripping the sheets off the bed there on a Monday morning. And I like what you talk about in the book. You give some practical, real world ways that you do it, and you've shared some very, very deep personal reasons why you had challenges and how you came out of those and what you're doing. I think the book is packed full of that. It's one of the things I particularly like about it. It's really real world. Let's go back here in the book and I look at some of the things you talk about that you said something here on the problem with problem solving. For real breakthroughs, you have to stop living in the problem and live in the solution instead. Randy, I really like that because we've heard a lot that people talk about being a solution provider. You provide a solution, you got to listen, and there's a place for that. But I think what you're talking about is going to the next level. It's a quantum leap ahead to say we're going to go beyond just solving a problem. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts behind that.
The entire concept of problem solving is backward looking because it says, here's this problem we've had in the past up to now. We have to go back and solve that. So whether it's you or your team, you're going backwards instead of forward. That's what that person who wrote you and said, hey, how do I get more people to come into my video store and rent my DVDs?
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
trying to solve a problem instead of looking for possibilities. So it's even, we go first from problem solving, then we go to solving or looking for opportunities, and then seeking possibilities. And that's where
Yes.
I'm really trying to get people to go in the book is seeking possibility thinking. That's how an Uber, an Airbnb, an Amazon, adventures like that, that's how they're created. They're not, if you look at Steve Jobs and the amazing, so many things that he brought to market, but one in particular would be what I have sitting over here, an iPad, right? The iPad did not solve any problem. There was no problem in the world that the iPod was necessary to solve. He didn't solve a problem with the iPad. He created a possibility. He created this new product that when Terry Brock saw it, who's a technical, crazy guy who's got to get every tech gadget right, when you saw that, you said, I have to have that. And
Yep.
you weren't alone. Hundreds of millions of people around the world saw that and said, I have to have one of those.
Exactly. Here's the original iPad. This was the original one. You see, I still have it here in the office. And matter of fact, look at this. I've got the new one here. I bought a little case with it as well. This is my iPad Mini 4. So it's there, but you see, it gives me the ability to make my life easier. Just today, when I was going over to get the rental car, I had a little extra time. Well, I got that, and I got my Zag keyboard with it. So it's like a full computer. I can get things done. My life is better because they sat down and came up with it. It wasn't because I came to them and said, hey, Steve Jobs at Apple, I really need something that's going to let me do this in a small way, and I want you to do something that will also take pictures and video, and I want all of that in one little unit that weighs less than a pound. Well, but
Yeah, and the whole thing, if you remember the story when it came out, somebody, at the PR event where he launched those things, somebody said, well, what kind of focus groups did you use for that? And he said, we didn't do any focus groups. And the statement he made was, it's not our customers' jobs to know what they want. Mm-hmm. It's the entrepreneur's job. It's your job. That's why I wrote the book, because I want everybody to understand that's your job. You have to think of the possibility of the product, of the service, of the concept, of the mission, of the vision, that once people see it, they're going to say, I have to get that. I have to be a part of that. I have to join that. That's what Mad Genius is all about.
Yep, Mad Genius is about that. And it's about doing those types of things. And also, you mentioned the idea of creating greatness. And creating greatness is something that we just got to kind of think about. And that's something that, well, let me jump over here to page 194, at least in my little book here, where you have a rather good quote. You notice I highlight, Randy, did you see, are you proud how I highlighted all of that one in yellow? I mean, it's huge here. Every one of us has a default setting. It's the mental attitude that determines whether we automatically go positive or go negative. This is the side of you that wants to wallow in victimhood. Oh, so many people want to do that. And validate every setback as preordained. I was destined by God, or I was destined by this, or whatever. You absolve yourself of responsibility, convince yourself that while you gave it your best, after all, it was just not meant to be. There is another side of you, and I want you to talk about this one, Randy. Another side of you that has faith and knows that no is never the answer. This side simply does not recognize defeat as anything but a temporary setback, a growing experience, and an opportunity to learn and modify. It is this second side of you that creates greatness. I love that one. That creating greatness, very important, and does epic things. This is the side of you that you must nurture. Get in touch with that side of you and make your first mastermind alliance. You talk about mastermind alliance, you talk about ways this can happen. Tell us a little bit about that now.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill, of course, introduced this concept of the mastermind, and it was in a different one of his works where he actually talked about the mastermind with yourself being your first mastermind alliance. And what I did in the book, you mentioned that it's 3 sections. The first book one, is a look at why we don't think this way, why we don't tap into our genius. How did all these memes come about? How did all this habitual thinking come about? How did all these foundational beliefs that it can't be done, it shouldn't be done, or we've always done it this way, or this is the way books are sold? Or, I mean, it's not like nobody in the taxi business probably ever thought of using a GPS to track the cars, right? It's not like nobody there probably thought about we could have a mobile app to call the driver, or nobody thought, well, we could use an app and they could rate the driver.
And then the drivers can rate the passengers as well. So
Yeah,
that way both sides are on their toes.
Yeah, and it's not like nobody in the taxi business couldn't have thought of that, and I'm sure millions of people in the taxi business did. But they said, well, no, it would cost too much money, and we've got these radios and dispatchers, and this is the way we've always done it. So that's what book one is about, how we fall into those the wrong premises. Then book two is the history of the future. And that's when I explore everything that's going to happen in this next 10 years, this decade of cataclysmic disruption with human cloning, 3D printing, organ transplants, and genomic sequencing, and all of the crazy, crazy stuff, which is actually going to happen in the next 10 years. And then book three is my call to action about tapping into that greatness that you're referring to and going at with that quote. That's where I kind of tie this together and say, hey, come on, we can do this. You really can think this way, and I want you to come along with me. And that's really what book three is about.
Yeah, and they're all three very good. They build one on top of the other, but also they could be treated in silos. So it's something that those of you watching this, I encourage you to get it for yourself. Put down a few coins and get the book, and you will be able to get a lot more. Matter of fact, Randy, I'm going to share something with you here as we're recording this that I haven't shared with you before. When I read your book a couple of days ago, it was my second time reading it then, and I wanted to try to apply the options. I had someone contact me about doing a potential program, and it was a situation where they wanted me as a technology speaker to come in and talk about disruption that's going on in their industry. That, hey, how do we get this thing? We're having too many virtual meetings, and we're in the meetings business. We want people coming to the physical area. And I thought, no, they can't. I can't go in and give them a few little tricks and try this little trick here, and you'll get people to do that. Or here's what's bad about virtual, et cetera. Both have their pros and cons. And I thought, after reading your book, I'm just going to tell them the way it is. This is what I'm going to do, and I will tell you what's going on. It's not either or. It's both and. There's strengths, and that's what I'm going to do. And so I sent it out to them. They came back and said, well, we got these issues here. But because of that, today, got the email that they said they like it, they want to go ahead with it, and I got a program, a booking, and I'm getting a lot more money for that booking than for your book and the price for that. So for those of you that are watching it, I can give you a guarantee that I've seen a return already. Well, I haven't got the check yet, but I'm sure they've already said, yeah, we're working through the holiday season, it'll be there. But Randy, I have to thank you for that. I got a booking out of it by applying the principles that I had there from Mad Genius. We've got to do things in a different way. It is a different world. And we got to stop just saying, oh, it's a different world, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but how do you think? And I think you've got to think like a mad genius. Randy, before we say goodbye, any final words to those who are watching this that are wondering about where they're going to go and how they can create their own future?
Your natural reaction is going to be to say, well, I don't have to worry about that because that isn't going to happen in my space. I'm in medical billing, or I'm a professional speaker, or I'm a taco truck driver, or I'm a delivery person. But you got to understand the changes we're talking about are going to impact every single person in every single business and every single job. Even if you're a warehouse worker, your job is going to be impacted by people with exoskeletons who can now go and lift 2,000 pounds worth of boxes instead of 20 pounds worth of boxes, right?
Exactly.
So you'd say, well, wait a minute. So there's an example of you're telling me a minimum wage job in a warehouse is also going to be impacted, just like the CEO of Amazon has to worry about disruption and destruction, right?
Yeah, both.
Even the minimum wage worker. And if you're thinking, well, okay, but that really won't apply to me, that's what those people in the audience for Dan Burris said, all of the booksellers. That's what they said. Well, that isn't going to apply to us. That's what all the taxi drivers said. Well, that's not going to apply. All of the hotelers who looked at Airbnb and said, that isn't going to apply to us. That's the danger. We get comfortable. We have our foundational beliefs and premises. And if the premise is off, everything that comes from the premise is off. So why I wrote Mad Genius is to get you to question every premise, really do the critical thinking, and really see where your next breakthrough is.
Absolutely. A fabulous book. I highly recommend it. For those of you watching, this is a book that can change your life. For me, I've already seen a wonderful possibility come through for it with the program that I'm booking, but I see that there'll be many other ways that you can apply those principles. Randy has done a great job with that book, and do yourself a treat. Do it for you and your future. Get this book, Mad Genius, and it's available at bookstores, fine bookstores all over the place, online and offline. Randy Gage, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. It's always good to see you, Randy.
Hey, thanks, Terry. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
And thank you for joining us today. I'm Terry Brock, and we wish you the very best.